So I've got a lot of watercolours here. These have all been done this year, 2025, and there's stacks and stacks of these. So I thought I would share some of these with you, that some of you who follow my tutorial channel will probably already have seen a lot of these. But a lot of them need signing, so I don't know why I don't sign them straight away, but various sizes. A lot of my demos and these paintings are done at 9 inches by 12 inches, but quite like painting little smaller watercolors as well. That's quite nice. Someone who likes red. And I'm gonna have a go at this on a larger scale, this on fleur scene at some point. But that's quite nice. Just a simple scene there. That's quite a nice, interesting sky, that one. But, I was trying to get the light on that one there. I suppose if you don't want to hear me waffling about, you could just mute the telly or whatever, whichever you're watching it on. Snow, we had a bit of snow in France the other day. I think probably I could do with signing that a different colour. I think red would be a little bit overwhelming, so let's have a couple of brushes on the go. I'll probably share some of this video on my main channels, but I did start another channel that's dedicated to sort of gallery and selling artwork. So obviously if you're not necessarily interested in buying artwork, probably not one for you to follow, but I suppose those of you who are looking to sell your artwork, you know, we could share ideas, and that one's already been signed. That's quite nice. But, a scene like this will do quite well where I live here in France, that it's very rural here. That's Christmas cards demo. I don't need to do anything with that one. It's just for fun. I do quite a few master studies. This is actually a master study of an Edward Seago. So what I could do is sign it, but perhaps on the back I'd write after Edward Seago, in honour of the original artist who painted a scene like that. I'll keep that to one side. Master study. What else we got here? Again, that's a master study. I don't know whether I'd sell these or not. That probably just keep them for my own use. That mainly they're sort of demonstrations. There's actually a few I've stacked together. It's quite nice, isn't it? That again, it's a master study, that one. But might even put that up on the wall myself. That one's quite I like that one. That was another demo. And again, all about atmosphere. And I think red or blue. Let's go for blue. So I suppose if you want to buy one of these paintings, you can just put a comment in and perhaps give me the time on the video or describe the painting. On my website, we have got my wife organises the sale of art on the website, and we've actually got a couple of galleries on there. There's also a clearance gallery as well, which some of these might end up on there. That I've got so many watercolours, you know, I just don't know what to do with them, to be fair. So I've been so focused on the other side of the business, sort of teaching, I've not really done a lot about selling artwork. I used to sell a lot of artwork in the UK, but I need to do something with them because there's hundreds, possibly thousands of them. But I suppose there are worse things you can collect. And oil paintings as well. But I've started recently doing a sketchbook that that's quite a nice way to collect artwork as well and have it in a sketchbook rather than lots of little bits of paper like this. Again, that's another master study. Great way to learn watercolours or any medium really, to study the masters that came before us. It's what they did. So do the same scene. And that's another master study, and that actually inspired me to do one of the first paintings I showed you. I've got it here actually. So that's my own scene. That was a master study, but you know, the inspiration came from there really. Quite famous scene, John Singer Sargent copy. Again, as a master study. Go down in that pile. I think that was obviously the pile of paintings that were master studies. Edward Seago master study. I've done lots of Edward Seago master studies. Shall have a suitcase full of master studies. That's one of my own. Canal boat. Boats always look good in paintings, I think. You know, even if you're not a boater yourself, but they do look good. That's a scene from England. One of our members shared a photo. It's obviously at a working mill. I think up in the north of England. You might recognise that scene. Gwithian, my local beach when I lived in Cornwall. And nice light in that one. Snowy scene. So I've painted so many watercolours, I don't actually remember painting that one, and that was this year. I don't know whether that's a good or a bad sign. More boats. Again, another member shared the reference photo for that. So it's a nice community of artists who I'm working with, who like to share photos and their artwork and so on. And I think that's Dublin, that one. Let's see a sunset. I've signed that one there. I've signed a few of these. And that was a reference photo that I took when we were away in our camper van, and I took inspiration from a John Singer Sargent painting where he'd painted the tents and so on and changed it to a night scene. But quite enjoyed doing that one. An eerie landscape. Portraiture is something I'm trying to improve on. That's out of Andrew Loomis' book, From a Drawing. And that's in Wales, Aberdyfi. That we quite often stayed when we lived in Wales in the camper van along the harbour there. That quite a nice, peaceful place. And I think that's inspired by Bournemouth Pier, possibly. Again, quite often I don't necessarily stick to being totally true to images and so on. That it's again more about sort of creating the atmosphere and light in that one. And that's actually a scene not far from where I live here, and I actually put a glaze over that unified the painting, gave it that nice sort of golden hour finish. So that's quite nice. I do like painting sunlight. I suppose that's why we moved to France, really, because we like the warmth from the sun. Although it's winter here now, so it's not a lot of sunshine. But a scene like that certainly reminds me of those evenings in France. And we're a long way away from the coast. We're bang smack in the middle of France here now, but I grew up in Cornwall, and so the seaside was a big part of my life growing up, and lived in Aberystwyth in Wales. I suppose you could say that scene is inspired by a sort of harbour coastal scene, although it's not Aberystwyth, but I suppose watercolour is the medium of light. And that's quite often what I'm trying to paint, the effects of sunlight and so on. Again, more boats. It's quite amazing with watercolour that you don't actually have to paint a lot of detail. You know, if you do capture light and atmosphere, you can get away with a lot, and in actual fact it can be better in some cases to keep it nice and simple, but that's nice when watercolour does its own thing. Hay bales, got lots of hay bales where I live in fields. So again, I suppose I was probably sort of looking at taking inspiration from Monet on that one, maybe a little bit. He painted lots of hay bales, didn't he? More farm scenes, rural France, maybe. The dog in the farmyard. There's the farmer's wife telling him breakfast is ready, maybe. He's getting everything ready for the day. And that one there, I was just trying to create the illusion of depth, almost like a photography trick really, where they sort of focus on the foreground and blur the background out. All about the sky, that one. And I actually painted that on location, that one, that when we were away in the camper van. I did change the scene slightly just to make it work as a painting. That's quite nice. And you always remember the ones you paint on location. They have a bit more meaning. Somewhere in England, can't remember where, but again, a member shared that photo. I think that's possibly France, that one there. Lots of it's a big country with a similar population to the UK, and so there's a lot more space for farms and houses and so on. That started off as a tonal value study, and again I did a glaze over that. That's quite simple. That's a garden centre in France on a rainy day, and I think I probably turned it into looks like a cafe or an arcade or something, maybe made it a little bit more interesting. Used to do lots of dog portraits. I don't do them anymore really. Watercolour is quite a nice medium for capturing dogs like that. You know, the actual white of the paper was used there. That's quite nice. Just a simple watercolour. I like painting lighthouses. They tend to like boats, I suppose. It's a character, and they work well. A misty landscape. I think I probably used a bit of a sponge there to lift off that area there. Again, capturing sunlight. And the white of the paper is really important in watercolour. And again, there's some interesting effects going on here. And sometimes they're accidental, that you might actually drop some water on it by accident, it creates a run back and so on. But I found the best thing to do is leave them and see what happens. That's a bit of experimental work. Again, probably inspired by that red painting. That probably without the car there coming through, it probably wouldn't have much to focus on, but a little bit different. Figures on the beach. It's probably scenes like this are what drew me to watercolour originally. That some quite famous artists who probably started the craze of painting loose watercolours, you know, cityscapes and so on rainy days and so on. But I think it's important to go off and do your own thing. So more boats. I have lived on a canal boat for a few years. I suppose that's why I've got a few canal scenes that are familiar to me. Again, a scene in France, all about shadows and light. And for me, watercolours having the connection all the way through, which the shadow was the ideal tool for that. And you always get these lovely little lanterns here in France. Again, a portrait study. I capture the character of, we called him Old Tom. Got my hat. Old fisherman. Elan Valley in Wales. Again, we used to stay there in our camper van quite a bit, and I've painted this scene on plein air as well, although this was done in the studio. Gwithian Beach in Cornwall. I recently shared that one on YouTube, that demo. That's doing well on YouTube. Again, strong contrast, light and dark, and it really paid putting this blue in here so we get that play of warm and cool colours. So I do like painting these sort of woodland scenes. And this was trying to figure out how to paint sort of rising mist in the morning. That we had stopped not far from where we live here in France, in the camper van again. So I was out early in the morning taking photos and caught this, and I did paint it in oils as well. Le Brume Soleil, the rising mist, or fog, and A nice European scene there. Bright sunlight on the white walls. Again, somewhere in the north of England. That's colours on that one. I think that was somewhere in France, that one. The bridge that just disappears off into the mist. A nice snap from one of our members' holiday. That's, I suppose, windmills and lighthouses. Again, similar sort of subjects, but quite sort of traditional, isn't it? That one. And these are all original paintings. So those of you who are thinking of adding a painting to your collection, these are all available. Just send me a message or put a comment or whatever. I'm seeing from France. So I thought a lot of these hadn't been signed, but I know I've got another pile there that needs signing, so I'll do that on another day. That was painted on location. I can't remember where in France it was, but old medieval fort on the top of the hill. It was quite a busy scene under here, so I decided to go for the misty effect there. Quite sort of almost abstract, really. And that's again a scene from France, Crozon, the Valley of the Painters. So I suppose, inspired by sort of Turner. I looked at a bit of Turner's work for a while, and that inspired me to have a go at painting in his kind of style. I did add the little painter there. That could be me, maybe. So that's that pile. I'd say there's several piles to go through. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and let me know in the comments which was your favourite, and I'll see you on another video soon.